All right, guys, we're back this week with Logan. He's the other Grunewald, and he's going to be showing us some snatches today. All right, so let's have a look at the most elegant movement in CrossFit, and then we'll start to talk about the fundamentals here. Beautiful. That was lightning fast. I don't know if you could see it. I don't know if you could catch it. But that was a well-executed snatch right from the get-go. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the first pull. Most of the sexy parts of the snatches are discussed beyond the first pull. So in the extension and the pulling under, that's what people want to go to. But if something is going wrong in the first pull, we have to address that first. And most people make most of their mistakes in the first pull. I'd say we see about 80% of the mistakes happening right in that first pull that we can address that can make significant change in our snatch. We're going to talk about balancing out that first pull, all right? So let's show some faults. So I'm going to get Logan to approach his bar, all right? So it all comes from the setup. We need that chest to be over the bar. We cannot sink behind the bar, so let's see that. This is a very bad position to be in for the snatch. The bar is instantly ahead of our center of mass, and it's all about making this lift as easy as possible on the body. So what we want is we want to push that center of mass over the bar. But now we want to engage the posterior chain. So we don't want the center of mass to be over the bar, but without the engagement of the posterior chain. So how do we engage the posterior chain? We pick the hips up just slightly to engage that. And then let's shift the weight back to the heels, Logan. Good, and that's a good setup. Chest over the bar, posterior chain engaged. And you can relax and stand. Cool. So that's being too behind the bar. That's gonna be too anterior loaded. All right, so your quads are gonna be too loaded. We see a lot of people that are quad dominant want to get into that kind of really low hip position. So let's go back to the bar, Logan, and let's show the other way. So this is hips too high. This is too much posterior chain engagement. Oftentimes when people line up like this, we don't see their back as flat because they're not as flexible. We'll see their back kind of curved, okay? And you can bring your hips up higher, let's exaggerate it. Yeah, so this is like, sometimes we see this really dangerous position in like the, what do you call it, in the Metcon. When we're touching and going, just because we get a little lazy. So sometimes we see people set up like this, and let's do it without exaggerating so much. Yeah, like that's a little too high. The chest is in front of the bar, not over the bar. Okay, so we want to get back to that balanced position. It's actually a good position to set from, because you can see Logan could more easily wind that up, and now he's in that good chest over the bar, posterior chain's loaded, and that full leg is loaded as well. You can relax and stand, okay? So once we're set up properly, we can still make faults in that first pull, and a lot of those faults stem from those initial natural ways that we want to set up of those two like versions that we just went over. All right, so let's set up again. We're going to set up in a nice good setup, nice and balanced, with a full engagement, chest over the bar, and let's show the hips shooting up out of the hole. So bar stays down, hips shoot up. Okay, did you see that? So we never want the hips to move from the bar. Now let's execute a snatch while your hips shoot out. Okay, now Logan really saved that snatch, but notice how he couldn't really receive it in the full squat snatch, right? When that happens when that happens at a more significant load, when the hips shoot up out of the hole and the bar stays pinned down, it's gonna get sent out in front. So most of the time when we're losing weights constantly out front, and we trace it back to the first pull, because that's when the problem happens overhead, you can usually trace it back to the first pull. When we trace that back to the first pull, one of the things that we see happening is the hips shooting up before the bar. So remember that the chest has to pick up the bar. So let's see a good one again, Logan. So it's like the bar's attached to a string that's attached to your chest, nice and plumb. Yeah, that chest, that hips and bar rise at the same time. Because your legs are driving that floor away and prying that chest away from the bar, all right? So second thing that happens, all right, is the hips start too low. And we're gonna show you a snatch when the hips start too low. And Logan's gonna set up, just he's gonna start initially, hips a little too low. And now let's watch him snatch. Okay, so that was a really good snatch. However, any more weight on that bar, like any significant amount of loading, like we're talking like 80% and above, is on that bar, you're really gonna feel the kind of hole that you've dug yourself into with your hips so far down in the hole. Pun intended. Okay, so when your hips so far down in the hole, you saw his knees so far forward. Let's set up back in that position. So now his knees are in the way. Okay, the bar needs a straight line. Now that your knees are in the way, how are you gonna get that bar in a straight line here? You have to go around your knees first and foremost. Then it's gonna have to come back in. Already we've just created a whole bunch of horizontal movement, and this lift only rewards vertical linear bar paths, okay? So after we've created this little mini kind of horizontal movement by going around the knee, watch his hips have to smash into the bar now to get back his lift, all right? Show us a snatch. Big hip bang on that bar, okay? What that hip bang is gonna do, if you can see Logan's hip where the bar is here, if you just bang the bar with your hips. Look where it's going. It has to go way out here, okay? That bar is gonna be big and loopy and come up all the way around his head. And that's where we see some people lose bars behind them there, but actually people do tend to lose them out more in front that way, believe it or not, when they bang their bar too much. So let's go back to that good setup. All right, chest over the bar, posterior chain engaged. All we're trying to do in the first pull is not mess up our positioning. Just hold the position. So we're keeping that patience to hold that fundamental position. And once we get past the knee, we release. Okay, ready? Let's see it. Yep. Bam, nice and smooth, bar path, nice and straight. Jumping back slightly, which is okay. It's better than jumping forward. But ideally, we like to see those feet in the same spot. Let's try that one more time. I really want to dial in this bar path based on this first pull positioning. All that matters is that your body stays the same and that your legs are doing all the work here. Nice and smooth. Guys, that is a really, really nice snatch. Really nicely done, Logan. Couple of takeaways from that. So hopefully you guys can dial in that first pull. When you dial in the first pull, it makes the most difference than in your snatch and dialing in any other aspect of this lift. All right, guys, have fun.